Fallout Equestria the Chrysalis, Chapter 25, Part 3. I put on a reassuring smile, lifting a hoof to tenderly touch Starlight's cheek.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Her expression brightened up, and she leaned in, giving me another kiss. I took a few moments to enjoy the sensation, before gently drawing back.
I should get back home. I have a welcoming party of my own I need to talk to.
Starlight put on a mock pout.
Aww. Don't worry.
I said, still wearing that smile.
I'll see you soon.
The smile vanished the moment I had stepped outside. My heart hammered as I walked around the loop to my own house. Strawberry was nowhere to be seen, and a pair of ponies were floating a new fence in a place where the old one had been. As I passed her house, I heard the clap of hooves trotting on the street. I looked back in time to see a pair of ponies. The same two I had first seen leaving Starlight's house, now hurrying back to her door. As I approached the door of my own house, I could hear the muffled sounds of the ponies inside. They sounded like they were arguing. The argument stops the moment I opened the front door. The mare quickly set down the hoof she had been gesturing wildly with and called out to me.
Oh, thank goodness. There you are, Whisper. You gave us quite the scare there. Where did you disappear to? I snuck out.
I said.
But now I'm back, and I'd like to talk.
Well, that's what we're here for, the stallion said. But, there's no need to sneak around here. Serenity is a nice, peaceful place.
I'm sure.
I said in a dry tone. Adrenaline teased at my senses as I took a calculated gamble.
Are you changelings? What? No. No changelings here. Why do you ask?
However, the stallion beside her effectively torpedoed her words. He stared at me, his eyes widening in dawning realization. He opened his mouth, gasping a single word. Disconnect. The mare's head turned, drawing my attention for just an instant. In that instant, I realized the stallion had vanished. A moment later, I realized the mare had vanished too. I twisted around, looking this way and that, until the entire world went away. Light and sounds twisted around me in an incoherent jumble. The world turned, and hooves pressed against me. I tried to move my head against the pressure that tried to hold me as up turned to down, and something soft pressed against my side. Something tugged on my forelegs, and something warm wrapped around my hooves. Among the jumbled colors, a pale blue orb drew my attention, though my addled brain made no sense of it until it turned to me and narrowed, mirrored by a twin just beside it. My view focused rapidly on the glossy black around them, until I could make out the expression of an angry changeling. I jerked, adrenaline flowing. I tried to lift my head, only to find myself restrained. I tried to call out, only to produce a muffled moan. I was muzzled. More hooves gripped and pressed at my sides, and I twisted my head to see several more changelings. I was lying down, strapped to a gurney, with my legs bound with goo. The changelings were working over me. The green light of pitbuck screams shone from their forelegs. The jumble of sounds I heard were words.
She's regaining focus,
the angry one near my head said. Tertiary leads disconnected. That's the last of it.
No, hold the sedative. I want her lucid.
Get those legs restrained. Lay on it. She's waking up.
Get those guards in here.
I twisted my head the other way. I couldn't see much past the changelings over me. I saw one of the guards stepped up, clad in armor, while a magic energy weapon floated beside her head.
Move her.
The gurney rocked under me as it started to roll, surrounded by changelings. I looked around with wide eyes, producing more muffled sounds as I tried to call out to them. So many changelings, so close. They were right there. As we moved, I got a parting glimpse of the room. I was being wheeled away from a white contraption that looked as if it had split open. It took me a moment to place it as the white eggshell of a suspended animation pod, just like the discarded remains in the lab I had woken up in. More pods filled the wide room. There were dozens of them, maybe 60 in total, and I could see faces inside them. With a lurch, I tried to search out Starlight and the others, but the door shut behind us, cutting me off. I was rolled down a hall and into a small room, bare except for a pair of plain benches. It looked like a jail cell. The group of changelings hauling the gurney parked me by the back wall, engaging the wheel brakes. Most stepped back, while the angry-looking one returned to look me in the face. Her horn glowed brightly, grabbing my eyelids so I couldn't blink, and shined a light in my eyes. A few seconds later, she stepped back, addressing the pair of guards who flanked her.
She's fully responsive. Keep a close eye on her.
One of the soldiers grunted in reply, then addressed me, her large magical energy weapon leveled straight at me.
If you attempt any magic, we will immediately shoot and kill you. Do you understand?
The straps made nodding difficult, but I managed. I was there for several long, silent minutes, with only the pair of wary and suspicious guards for company. Unable to attempt conversation, I remained still. I didn't want to test their nerves or their reflexes. I found myself staring at one of the soldiers. A changeling, dressed in armor much like my own, with a pip-buck on her leg. I'd found changelings. But this changeling was standing ready to kill me at a moment's notice. As excited as I was to find changelings, I was still in an incredibly dangerous and uncertain situation. And there was a room nearby with several dozen ponies and other species held in suspended animation. While I could think of a few reasons to do so, one stood out as the most likely reason a group of changelings would organize something like this, and it was a troubling one. It would also explain why I felt so drained of love. I must have been in that room for about 5 minutes before several guards entered. To my shock, 2 Enclave soldiers entered with them. A moment later, I realized my error. The soldiers were clad in Enclave armor, certainly, but I could see the fanged chitinous muzzle below the armor's visor. They were changelings, wearing Enclave armor. And I noticed then that the backplate had been painted a dark iridescent blue, as if to mimic a changeling's coloration. "Move her," one of the power-armored soldiers ordered, and the guards rolled me out on the gurney. This journey took quite a bit longer, leading me through many halls and an elevator. The construction was rugged but refined, with reinforced metal walls, hydraulic doors, and plentiful lighting. It looked like Stable-Tech construction. Finally, we rolled into a large room. As we were coming to a halt, a beautiful voice, rich and melodious, called out.
Release her.
My heart hammered, while the guards stepped in, undoing the straps that held me. Moments later, I was floated off and set on the ground, and the goo that bound my legs dissolved away. I got a hoof under me to push myself up, and I looked in the direction of that voice. Some 20 feet away lay a large cushion, and lying atop it was a young changeling queen, her head held in a regal pose. Flanking her were a pair of soldiers in black-painted Steel Ranger armor, much larger and bulkier than the Enclave armored soldiers I had seen before. They stood tall and proud like statues, sporting heavy magical weapons. The queen's slit-pupil eyes were fixed on me, half-lidded as if bored with me. Her fanged mouth opened as she spoke again.
Lose the disguise.
I gulped, well aware of the many guards around me, and tugged at the strings of my magic. My flames stripped away my disguise, leaving me in my natural form, minus my armor, which I kept concealed for now. The queen continued to stare at me for several long seconds, those bright green eyes silently judging me. Finally, they twitched to the side, looking at the group that had brought me.
Leave us.
They bowed and left without comment. The 2 armored hulks beside her remained still. Once the doors had shut, the young queen stood, advancing towards me in a slow, graceful strut. Her long mane fell across her shoulders, while those beautiful green eyes remained fixated on me. I tried my best not to stare. She halted a couple of yards away, looking down at me.
Who are you?
I swallowed again.
My name is Whisper.
I said, then quickly bowed my head as an afterthought.
Your Highness.
She hummed quietly to herself as she considered me. Her posture tightened, her head rising slightly, proudly, before speaking again.
I am Queen Chrysalis.
My gut dropped, and I completely failed to hide my reaction, eyes widening at those words. There was no possible good reason a changeling queen would adopt that name. The situation had just gotten worse. Her eyes narrowed, glaring down her snout at me.
Is there a problem? Sorry.
I stammered, allowing the fear to show for only a moment before tightly constraining my expression to one of confusion.
I've heard that name before, but I'm not very well versed in history, but I thought Queen Chrysalis lived before the Great War.
Her lip twitched, baring her fangs a little more. She spoke again, her voice darkening with irritation.
I am Queen Chrysalis the Sixth.
I forced my body language to relax.
Oh, my apologies. That makes much more sense.
I gave a little twitch, then bowed my head.
Your Highness.
She gave a faint snort.
It doesn't matter. Now tell me, Whisper. Why are you here?
I looked up at those waiting eyes, watching me like a predator, ready to pounce. My mind raced, scrambling to piece together an appropriate story.
I've been looking for other changelings. I learned that there might be changelings around here, so I came looking.
The Queen's voice was sharp and demanding.
Where did you learn that? From another changeling.
I quickly replied, suppressing a shiver.
Except, I didn't know she was a changeling. It was a pony named Emerald. At least, I thought she was a pony until a raider shot and killed her. She had a pitbuck, and after digging around on it, I found that she'd come from here. I thought I might find some other changelings here, or at least clues to where they were.
I looked around, putting on a slow, odd smile.
I didn't think I'd find a whole hive. And why were you looking for us?
I flinched a little, bowing my head again.
My queen and my hive are dead. I've been on my own for so long.
I slowly sagged, bowing my head again.
I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to be on my own anymore. When I learned that there might be more changelings...
How did your hive die?
I looked up, blinking, my ears pinning back. I gulped, covering for the moment of thought.
I think they starved. I was in a cocoon because we lacked enough love for everyling. When I woke up, they were all dead.
She slowly walked to the side, looking off in thought.
Another hive. No ling has heard of another hive in at least a century.
You must have been very good at hiding.
We tried to stay low-key.
I said.
We didn't even have a proper hive. Certainly nothing as impressive as you have. We had to hide among ponies.
And yet, your hive failed.
Wincing, I ducked my head.
It was always difficult finding enough love. Ponies can be paranoid.
She gave a slow nod, humming thoughtfully, then looked back to me.
So now, you come here, hoping to, what? Join some other queen's hive?
My eyes widened slightly as I looked up at her.
If you'd have me.
She frowned, and I prostrated myself, bowing my head until my nose touched the floor.
Please, Queen Chrysalis. I have nowhere else to go. I have no purpose on my own. I'll do anything you ask of me, without hesitation, just to have a purpose again.
Her head tilted, as she looked down, towering over me.
You seem quite eager to cast aside your loyalty.
I closed my eyes, ears hanging low.
I will never betray my hive,
I said, my tone firm, despite the tremble in my voice.
But there is nothing remaining to be loyal to.
So you're certain every member of your former hive is dead?
I inhaled sharply, eyes opening to look up at those piercing eyes.
My queen is dead, and my hive is shattered. I know most of them are dead. If any others did manage to survive, if they do not serve the same queen I do, then they are no longer of my hive.
The corner of Queen Chrysalis's mouth twitched upwards. She turned, slowly pacing to my side as she thought. I remained still, keeping my head bowed.
Then I suppose I have one more question.
She said, turning to face me again.
What are your thoughts on ponies?
I blinked in surprise. I hadn't expected a question like that. Here I was trying to convince her that I would be a loyal and obedient subject, and she instead wants to know my opinions on something completely unrelated. It made no sense, and I had nothing ready. That has gotta be so intimidating. Being surrounded by so many people you don't know, and they could just toy with you because you have nowhere else to go. That's gotta suck. Anywho, let's get on to our friendly donators. Top donators are 630, BadassWaffle, Onlyonething, Ceru, Orion, IronSky, and Jessie Smith. Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel, Sky, Austin, Rolan, Stu, Hex, Sword, Biller, Mordred, Omicron, Lyrae, Winslet, 9852, Will, Chris, Twinkie, Rides, All Shadow, Moon, Luigi, 88, Chancer Crust, Big Smoke, 369, Bobcat, GJF, and many more amazing people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.